What happens when a Korean visitor steps into an African village, expecting one thing but experiencing something completely different? At first, Min-jun thought this trip would be just another adventure, but he never expected to meet a bold, confident African woman who would change his life forever. From cultural shocks to unexpected friendships, this story is filled with laughter, emotions, and an unforgettable transformation. But wait till you see what happens at the end. It's truly mind-blowing. Stay with me till the end because this is a story you don't want to miss. The sun hung lazily in the sky, casting golden hues over the bustling village of Umuachi. Women balanced baskets of produce on their heads. Traders called out their wares, and the scent of roasted plantains and spicy jollof rice filled the air. Life here was vibrant, untouched by the rush of the modern world until the unexpected arrival of a foreigner. Min-jun stepped out of the small bus that had brought him from the city. His fair skin, neatly combed dark hair, and slim frame made him stand out like a sore thumb. Villagers peeked from their stalls, some whispering, others simply staring. It wasn't every day that a Korean visitor arrived in their little corner of the world. Ada, sitting under a mango tree by her mother's food stand, observed him with mild curiosity. She had seen tourists before, but this one seemed different. He looked a little lost, glancing at his phone, as though expecting it to give him answers. With a sigh, she turned her attention back to her plate of pounded yam and egusi soup. She had no time to babysit strangers. "Excuse me," a hesitant voice called out. Ada looked up and found Min-jun standing in front of her. He spoke in heavily accented English, his eyes scanning her round face. "Do you know where I can find Madame Ebel?" Ada raised an eyebrow. Madame Ebel, the renowned local host, often took in foreign guests. She smirked. "You mean Mama Ebel. You're standing in front of her daughter's shop." Relief washed over Min-chun's face. "Oh, thank you. I am Min-jun." He extended his hand awkwardly. Ada eyed his hand, then his slim figure, and couldn't help but chuckle. "You don't look like you can survive our food," she teased. "Welcome to Umuachi, Min-jun. You're in for an interesting stay." Little did she know, this encounter would mark the beginning of a life-changing journey for them both. Min-jun shifted uncomfortably as the weight of curious stares settled on him. It was clear that he was the center of attention, and he wasn't sure how to feel about it. He had traveled to Africa before, but never to a village like this, where life moved at a different pace and people were not afraid to openly observe a stranger in their midst. Ada watched him closely, a smirk still playing on her lips. She found it amusing how stiff he looked, like a misplaced mannequin in the middle of a bustling market. "Follow me," she said finally, standing up and dusting off her wrapper. Mama Ebel's house isn't far. As they walked through the village, Min-jun found himself bombarded with new sights, smells, and sounds. Goats roamed freely, children played with sticks and tires, and women wrapped in colorful Ankara fabrics exchanged laughter while pounding fufu in large wooden mortar. The air was thick with the aroma of grilled meat and ripe mangoes. Min-jun pulled out his phone to snap a picture, but Ada quickly stopped him with a light tap on the arm. "Careful with that," she warned. "Not everyone here likes being photographed. Some believe it steals their spirit." Min-jun blinked in confusion, looking around as if expecting to see someone's spirit floating away. Ada laughed. "I'm joking." "Well, sort of. Just be respectful." He nodded, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "Your village is different," he admitted. "Not bad, just very different." Ada folded her arms. "You mean it's not what you expected?" Min-jun hesitated before answering. "In Korea, everything is fast. The city is always moving. People don't really stop to talk like this. Here, everything feels alive. But also, people keep staring at me." Ada shrugged. "That's because you look like you walked out of one of those K-drama series people watch here." Min-chun's eyes widened. "K-drama? You watch Korean dramas?" Ada grinned. "Who doesn't? But you don't look like the main actors. "You're too skinny." Minjun chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, in Korea, people think I'm normal. Here, I feel small." Ada smirked. "Now you know how I feel when people look at me and think I'm too big." For a moment, Minjun had no response. He hadn't considered that. He looked at Ada, really looked at her, and realized that her presence carried a confidence he wasn't used to. She was large, yes, but she moved with an ease that made him wonder if she even cared what people thought. Before he could say more, they reached a modest house with a wide veranda where a plump, elderly woman sat fanning herself. Her face lit up when she saw them. "Ada, who is this young man?" "Mama Ebel, meet your new guest," Ada announced, nudging Minjun forward. "Try not to scare him away with too much food." Mama Ebel laughed heartily. "Nonsense. A growing man needs to eat well. Come inside. My son, let me show you real African hospitality." As Minjun was ushered into the house, Ada watched him disappear inside, shaking her head. This was going to be interesting. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Minjun sat cross-legged on a mat outside Mama Ebel's house, staring at the plate of food in front of him. The aroma was mouth-watering, rich, spicy, and unlike anything he had ever smelled before. The dish was a steaming mound of pounded yams served with a juicy soup, thick with palm oil, melon seeds, and generous pieces of meat. Mama Ebel clapped her hands in delight. "Eat, my son. You need strength." Minjun picked up a spoon, but the room erupted in laughter. "No, no, no," Mama Ebel said, shaking her head. "You eat with your hands." Ada, who had been leaning against the doorframe, rolled her eyes. "Here, let me show you." She tore off a piece of pounded yam, dipped it into the soup, and popped it into her mouth effortlessly. Like this. Minjun hesitated before mimicking her actions. He grabbed a piece of the yam, dipped it into the soup, and carefully brought it to his mouth. The flavors exploded on his tongue, spicy, nutty, and incredibly rich. He coughed slightly at the heat but managed to swallow. Ada smirked. Not bad for a first-timer. He wiped his mouth and nodded. "It's very strong." "Strong." Ada raised an eyebrow. "In Korea, our food is also spicy, but this is different, heavier, more powerful." He took another bite, this time more prepared for the intensity. Mama Ebel beamed. "That is the taste of home. You are welcome here, my son." As they ate, Minjun couldn't help but notice the way people interacted in the village. There was a sense of community he wasn't used to. Neighbors dropped by unannounced. Children ran freely between homes, and laughter was a constant backdrop. In Seoul, life was structured, efficient, and somewhat isolated. Here, everything felt personal. After dinner, he excused himself and stepped outside for some fresh air. The village was still buzzing with life. Under a mango tree, a group of women sat chatting, their voices carrying easily in the cool breeze. A few meters away, young men played a lively game of Ayo, a traditional board game. Minjun leaned against the wooden railing, watching. He had expected cultural differences, but he hadn't anticipated how much he would stand out. Everywhere he went, eyes followed him, not just out of curiosity, but also with a quiet judgment he couldn't quite decipher. Back inside, Ada sat beside Mama Ebel, sipping from a cup of warm millet porridge. The old woman chuckled softly. "Your visitor is struggling." Ada smirked. "He'll be fine. He just needs to learn that here we see things differently." Mama Ebel nodded thoughtfully. "And perhaps he will teach us something too." Outside, Minjun sighed, wondering if he would ever truly fit into this world so different from his own. The next morning, Minjun woke to the sound of roosters, crowing, and the distant chatter of women heading to the market. The village was already alive, its rhythm in full swing. He stretched, feeling the ache in his back from sleeping on the traditional mat Mama Ebel had given him. It was firmer than the beds he was used to in Korea, but he couldn't complain. Her hospitality had been overwhelming. As he stepped outside, the scent of frying akara filled the air. he spotted Ada sitting on a small wooden bench, expertly flipping the golden brown bean cakes in a sizzling pan of oil. Her hands moved quickly, effortlessly, as she hummed a tune. "Good morning," Minjun greeted, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Ada glanced up, smirking. "Morning, city boy. How's your back?" Minjun groaned, stretching again. "I think the mat tried to kill me." Ada chuckled. "You'll get used to it." She scooped up a freshly fried akara and tossed it his way. He fumbled but managed to catch it. "Try that." "No cutlery, just your hands." He bit into the akara cautiously, his eyes widening as the crisp outer layer gave way to the soft, flavorful inside. "This is really good." "I know," she said smugly. "Food is serious business here." Just then, a group of young women passed by, whispering and giggling as they stole glances at Minjun. Ada noticed and smirked. "Looks like you have fans already." Minjun flushed. "They're laughing at me, aren't they?" Ada shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe they just think you look funny trying to eat akara like a newborn." He rolled his eyes, but before he could reply, an elderly man approached. It was Baba Chukwudi, one of the village elders. He eyed Minjun curiously before speaking in a deep, commanding voice. "So, the Korean boy wants to experience village life, hey?" Minjun straightened, unsure how to respond. Yes, sir." Baba Chukwudi stroked his beard. "Then you must truly live like us. No half measures." Ada's eyes twinkled with mischief. "What do you suggest, Baba?" The old man pointed to the open-air kitchen behind Mama Ebel's house. "If he wants to be part of this village, let him cook a proper meal. No fancy foreign recipes, real African food." Minchun's stomach dropped. He could barely cook back home, let alone prepare a meal in a village kitchen. Ada grinned, clearly enjoying his discomfort. "Well, city boy," she said, crossing her arms. "Think you can handle it?" Minjun hesitated. He could refuse and look like a coward, or he could accept and make a complete fool of himself. Either way, he had no escape. Taking a deep breath, he met Ada's gaze. "I'll do it." The villagers who had gathered let out cheers and laughter. Baba Chukwudi nodded approvingly. "Good. Let's see what you're made of." Minjun wasn't sure if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life, but there was no turning back now. Minjun stood in the open-air kitchen, staring at the unfamiliar ingredients spread out before him. Fresh vegetables, slabs of meat, dried fish, palm oil, and a variety of spices filled the wooden table. Smoke curled from the firewood stove, its crackling heat already making him sweat. The villagers had gathered around, eager to watch the city boy prove himself. Ada stood beside him, arms folded, her face lit with amusement. "All right, Chef Minjun, today's dish is banga soup with iba," she announced. Minjun swallowed hard. "What's banga soup?" Ada sighed dramatically. "Palm nut soup. It's thick, rich, and full of flavor. And iba is made from gari cassava flakes. Very easy to prepare. Even a child can do it." Minjun groaned. No pressure, then. The crowd chuckled as Mama Ebel stepped forward, handing him a large wooden spoon. "First, you pound the palm nuts to extract the juice." She pointed at a large mortar filled with red palm nuts. Minjun bent over, grabbed the pestle, and began pounding. At first, it seemed easy, but within minutes, his arms ached. Sweat dripped down his forehead, and he could hear the quiet snickers of the villagers. Ada smirked. "Not so easy, huh?" Panting, Minjun wiped his brow. "This is a workout." Ada took over effortlessly, pounding the nuts with a rhythm that made it seem effortless. "See, it's all in the technique." Once the palm juice was extracted, they moved on to seasoning the soup. Minjun watched as Ada tossed in crayfish, pepper, smoked fish, and large chunks of beef. The aroma intensified, making his stomach grumble. Finally, it was time to prepare the iba. Ada poured hot water into a bowl of gari and handed Minjun a wooden spoon. Stir it in a circular motion until it forms a smooth dough. Min-jun tried, but the mixture was too thick, sticking to the spoon like glue. The villagers burst into laughter. "Use your hands," someone shouted. Sighing, he plunged his hands into the warm, sticky mixture, kneading it awkwardly. Ada watched, shaking her head. "You mix like a scared chicken." Somehow, he managed to shape the eba into a decent mound. When everything was finally ready, Mama Ebel served the meal on banana leaves, and the villagers gathered to taste. Min-jun held his breath as Baba Chukwudi took the first bite. The old man chewed thoughtfully, then smacked his lips. Not bad. For a first try. The villagers clapped, and Min-jun let out a relieved sigh. Ada elbowed him playfully. "You survived. Barely." Min-jun grinned, feeling a strange sense of accomplishment. Maybe, just maybe, he was starting to belong. Later that evening, as the villagers slowly dispersed, Min-jun sat on the veranda of Mama Ebel's house, stretching his sore arms. His palms were still stained from handling the palm nuts, and his muscles ached from all the pounding and stirring. Who knew cooking could be this exhausting? Ada plopped down beside him, munching on a roasted corn cob. "Not bad for your first real village meal," she said, her voice laced with amusement. Min-jun let out a tired chuckle. "I think I sweated out half my body weight." She laughed. "Welcome to our world. Here, everything is done with effort, no shortcuts." Min-jun leaned back against the wooden railing and watched the fireflies flicker in the distance. The air was thick with the scent of earth, smoke, and roasted plantains. In Seoul, the nights were filled with the hum of traffic and neon lights. Here, there was only the sound of crickets, distant drums, and the occasional chatter from late-night storytellers. "I have a question," he said suddenly, glancing at Ada. She raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "In Korea, there's a lot of pressure to be thin. People go on crazy diets, and being fat is seen as unhealthy or unattractive. But you seem so confident. You don't care what people think." Ada paused, the playful glint in her eyes dimming slightly. She tossed the half-eaten corn cob aside and wiped her hands on her wrapper. "You think I don't care?" Min-jun hesitated. "Well, you act like you don't." She sighed, staring ahead at the darkened village. "I won't lie to you. It's not easy. People have called me all sorts of names, Orobo, Fatty Bomb Bomb, Elephant Woman, you name it. Even some family members think I should lose weight. But I decided a long time ago that I wouldn't let their words define me." Min-jun listened in silence, surprised by the depth of her words. Ada turned to him, a small smile playing on her lips. "Confidence isn't about being blind to what people say. It's about choosing not to let it control you." Min-jun absorbed her words, nodding slowly. "I think I understand." She studied him for a moment before smirking. "Now, what about you? Do you care what people think?" Min-jun exhaled. "Back home, there's pressure to be perfect in different ways. Good grades, a stable job, a slim figure. It's exhausting." He ran a hand through his hair. "Sometimes I wonder if anyone is ever truly happy with themselves." Ada chuckled softly. "Maybe happiness isn't about being perfect. Maybe it's about accepting who you are." Min-jun glanced at her, and for the first time, he saw beyond the playful teasing and bold attitude. Ada was more than just a confident, plus-sized village girl. She was strong, self-assured, and wiser than he had given her credit for. And in that moment, he realized he had more to learn from her than he ever expected. The next morning, Min-jun woke up earlier than usual, determined to explore the village beyond Mama Ebel's house. He had spent most of his time so far either cooking or failing at it, or sitting around while the villagers observed him like a rare animal. Today, he wanted to see the place through his own eyes. Ada was already awake, peeling yams by the fire. She raised an eyebrow as he stepped outside. "Look who's finally joining the living," she teased. Min-jun yawned. "I thought village life was supposed to be relaxing. Why does it feel like a survival camp?" Ada laughed. "Because here, nobody sits around waiting for life to happen. You have to get up and do things." Min-jun stretched. "Then let's go. I want to see more of this place. Ada wiped her hands on her wrapper and stood. Fine, but if you get tired, don't say I didn't warn you. They walked through the village, Min-jun paying closer attention to the little things. The way women carried heavy baskets on their heads without using their hands. The way children played freely in the dirt without worrying about getting dirty. The way men sat in small groups under trees, debating loudly about politics and football. As they reached the market square, Min-chun's eyes widened. The place was a whirlwind of colors, sounds, and smells. Traders shouted prices, women haggled fiercely over fabrics, and the scent of fresh fish and ripe mangoes filled the air. It was chaotic but alive. Does your market look like this in Korea? Ada asked, watching his reaction. Min-jun shook his head. Not at all. Markets in Seoul are modern, organized, quiet, and efficient. This feels wild. Ada smirked. That's because here, shopping is a sport. As they weaved through the crowd, a vendor selling colorful fabrics waved Ada over. My daughter, come and see my new Ankara prints. Ada pulled Min-jun toward the stall. You need a new outfit. You stick out like a sore thumb in these city clothes. Min-jun looked down at his jeans and t-shirt. What's wrong with my clothes? Ada grabbed a bright green and yellow fabric and held it against his chest. Everything. If you're going to be here, you need to look the part. Min-jun hesitated. I don't know. Come on, Ada said, nudging him. Don't be scared of a little color. The vendor smiled. Don't worry, my son. When we finish with you, even the spirits will admire you. The thought of standing out even more made Min-jun uneasy, but he sighed in defeat. Fine, but nothing too flashy. Ada grinned. We'll see. As the vendor measured him, Min-jun couldn't help but notice the way Ada carried herself. She was bold, unafraid, completely at home in this busy world. In contrast, he felt like a fish out of water. Still, as he glanced at the fabric in his hands, he realized something maybe. This trip wasn't just about experiencing a new culture. Maybe it was about letting go of old fears and embracing something different. And perhaps, just perhaps, Ada was the perfect person to teach him how. The next day, Min-jun found himself standing in front of Mama Ebel's house, staring at his reflection in a small, cracked mirror. The tailor had worked fast, and now he was dressed in a traditional African outfit, an Ankara pattern short-sleeved shirt with matching trousers. The fabric was vibrant, a mix of green, yellow, and hints of red. It was unlike anything he had ever worn before. From the doorway, Ada let out a loud laugh. Wow, Min-jun, you look like a true village prince. Min-jun turned to her, shifting uncomfortably. Are you sure this isn't too much? She stepped closer, adjusting the fabric on his shoulder. Not at all. You look good, better than those boring city clothes. Mama Ebel walked out just then, clapping her hands in delight. Ah, now you truly look like one of us. Min-jun sighed, still unsure about his bold new look. I feel like everyone will stare at me even more. Ada smirked. They were already staring. At least now they'll stare with admiration. She grabbed his wrist. Come on, we're going to show you off. As they walked through the village, Min-jun noticed how people reacted differently. Some of the elders nodded in approval, and the younger children whispered excitedly as they pointed at him. A few women even stopped to compliment him. You see, Ada said, nudging him, I told you. For the first time since arriving, Min-jun felt less like an outsider. The outfit may have been foreign to him, but it symbolized something bigger: acceptance, belonging, and stepping outside his comfort zone. After a while, they reached the village square, where a small gathering had formed. Baba Chukwudi, the elder who had challenged Min-jun to cook, spotted him and let out a deep chuckle. So, the Korean boy has transformed. He boomed. You are becoming one of us faster than I thought. Min-jun bowed slightly, remembering how people in Korea greeted elders. I'm trying my best. Baba Chukwudi laughed. That is good, but wearing our clothes is one thing. Can you dance like us? Min-chun's eyes widened. Wait, what? The crowd erupted in cheers as a group of drummers started playing a fast-paced rhythm. Ada's face lit up. Oh, this is going to be fun. Min-jun groaned. I should have seen this coming. Ada grabbed his hand and pulled him into the open space. Come on, city boy. Let's see what you've got. As the drums intensified, the villagers clapped and stomped their feet. Ada began moving effortlessly to the beat, her hips swaying, her feet light and quick. The energy was infectious, but Min-jun stood frozen, unsure of what to do. Loosen up. Ada laughed, pulling at his arms. Just feel the music. Min-jun took a deep breath, trying to mimic her movements. His first few steps were awkward, making the crowd laugh, but he didn't stop. He focused on the rhythm, the way the drums vibrated through his body. Slowly, he let go of his hesitation and moved more freely. The laughter turned into cheers. Even Baba Chukwudi clapped approvingly. Ada grinned. See, not bad for a city boy. As Min-jun danced, something inside him shifted. For the first time since arriving, he wasn't overthinking. He wasn't worrying about how he looked or whether he fit in. He was just present. And in that moment, he realized maybe he was changing in ways he hadn't expected. As the night wore on, the rhythm of the drums echoed through the village, blending with laughter and cheers. Min-jun, still slightly breathless from dancing, collapsed onto a wooden bench beside Ada. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but for once he didn't care. I can't believe you made me do that, he groaned, shaking his head. Ada smirked, popping a piece of roasted plantain into her mouth. Oh, please. You loved it. Min-jun opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. She was right, he had enjoyed it. For the first time in a long while, he had let go of his usual caution, allowing himself to be part of something bigger than himself. Mama Ebel soon approached with a tray of drinks. Placing a wooden cup in front of Min-jun. Drink, my son. You have earned it. He peered inside. What is it? Palm wine, Ada said with a grin. Sweet and fresh from the trees. Min-jun hesitated. Is it strong? Ada took a sip from her own cup. Try it and see. He lifted the cup to his lips and took a cautious sip. A rich, mildly sweet taste filled his mouth with a faint tangy aftertaste. His eyes widened. This is actually really good? Mama Ebel laughed. Be careful, though. It can sneak up on you. As Min-jun took another sip, he caught a few villagers still watching him, their expressions softer than before. It was subtle, but he could tell that something had shifted. They were beginning to see him as one of them. Ada nudged him. So, are you still counting the days until you go back to Korea? Min-jun hesitated, looking around at the lively scene, the people, the music, the sense of community. A week ago, he had been counting the days, eager for this adventure to be over. But now, he wasn't so sure. I don't know, he admitted. This place, it's different, but in a good way. Ada smiled knowingly. You're starting to see it, aren't you? Min-jun nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I am. Just then, Baba Chukwudi clapped his hands loudly. Tomorrow, we have the New Yam Festival. Min-jun, you must be ready. Min-jun blinked. The what? Ada's eyes twinkled with excitement. Oh, this is going to be fun. Min-jun groaned. Why do I feel like that means trouble for me? Ada just grinned. Because it does. And with that, the night carried on, full of laughter, warmth, and the beginnings of an unexpected transformation. The sun rose over the village, painting the sky in streaks of gold and crimson. Min-jun stretched lazily, his muscles still sore from the previous night's dancing. But the sounds of excitement outside quickly reminded him. Today was the New Yam Festival. Stepping outside, he was greeted by a breathtaking sight. The village square had been transformed. Colorful fabric banners fluttered in the wind, and the scent of roasted yams and spicy pepper soup filled the air. Women, dressed in their finest wrappers, carried trays of food, while men adorned and embroidered traditional outfits, prepared for the festivities. Ada spotted him and waved, already dressed in a dazzling orange and blue anchor gown. She looked different today, more regal, more confident than ever. "Good morning, city boy," she teased. "Ready for your next adventure?" Minjun sighed. "Do I have a choice?" "Nope," she said, grabbing his hand. They weaved through the bustling crowd as Ada explained the festival's significance. The New Yam Festival is a big deal here. It marks the beginning of the harvest season, and yams are our most important crop. Before we eat them, we give thanks to the gods and our ancestors. Minjun nodded. It sounds like Korea's Chuseok Festival, where we honor our ancestors and share food. Ada beamed. "See, our cultures aren't that different after all." They reached the center of the square, where Baba Chukwudi stood beside a towering stack of freshly harvested yams. The village elders, draped in ceremonial robes, gathered around. The crowd hushed as Baba Chukwudi lifted a knife, slicing the first yam in half and raising it to the sky. "May the gods bless our land. May our harvest be plentiful. May our people never go hungry." The villagers erupted into cheers as women rushed forward to start cooking the yams. Ada turned to Minjun with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Now for the fun part." He narrowed his eyes. "What fun part?" She smirked. "The eating competition." Minchun's jaw dropped. "Wait, what?" Before he could protest, he was dragged to a long wooden table where several men were already seated, their plates piled high with steaming yams. "The rules are simple," Ada explained. "Whoever eats the most yams in 5 minutes wins." Minchun's stomach twisted. "Ada, I just started getting accepted here. I don't want to humiliate myself in front of the whole village." She laughed. "Too late. You're already signed up." The drummers started playing, and Baba Chukwudi raised his staff. "Let the contest begin." The men dove in, grabbing pieces of yam and dipping them into spicy sauce before shoving them into their mouths. Minjun hesitated for only a second before picking up his first piece. The yam was soft and buttery, and the sauce burned his tongue in the best way. He grabbed another, then another, forcing himself to keep up. The crowd cheered loudly, and Ada's laughter rang in his ears. By the time Baba Chukwudi called for the contest to stop, Minjun was gasping for air, his stomach painfully full. The winner, a large man with a belly to match, raised his arms triumphantly. Minjun groaned, leaning back in his chair. "I am never eating yams again." Ada cackled. "You did well, city boy. You survived." Despite himself, Minjun grinned. Maybe this wasn't so bad after all. As the excitement from the eating contest died down, the festival carried on with new events. Music filled the air, and villagers moved to different activities, some to the wrestling matches, others to the storytelling circle where elders shared ancient folktales. Minjun, still recovering from his yam-filled stomach, sat on a wooden bench beside Ada, watching a group of men prepare for the traditional wrestling competition. The crowd gathered around as two muscular men stepped into the cleared-out area, their bodies gleaming with sweat under the afternoon sun. "What's happening now?" Minjun asked, wiping his forehead. Ada leaned forward excitedly. "This is the Igba MGBA, our traditional wrestling. It's one of the biggest parts of the festival. Strength and skill are highly respected here, so winning is a big deal." Minjun watched as the two wrestlers crouched low, circling each other like lions before charging. The crowd roared as one man flipped his opponent onto the ground, pinning him down with ease. He whistled. "That looks intense." Ada grinned. "It is. And guess what?" Minjun turned to her, immediately suspicious. "What?" She smirked. "You're next." Minjun nearly choked on his breath. "What?" Before he could protest, Baba Chukwidi's deep voice rang through the square. "Our guest from Korea has shown great spirit. Let us see if he has the strength of a true warrior." The villagers cheered, clearly excited by the idea. Minjun, on the other hand, felt his soul leave his body. "Ada," he hissed, "why do you keep throwing me into these things?" Ada giggled. "Relax, it's just for fun. You don't have to win, just last a few seconds. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped forward, flexing his muscles. He looked like he could break Minjun in half with one hand. "I am dead," Minjun muttered under his breath. The crowd laughed as Minjun was pulled into the circle. He glanced back at Ada one last time. "If I don't make it out of this, tell my family I love them." She smirked. "You'll be fine." The drummers began playing, signaling the start of the match. Minjun barely had time to react before his opponent lunged. Instinctively, he ducked, causing the man to stumble forward. The crowd gasped. Minjun blinked. Did he just dodge that? His opponent came at him again, and this time, Minjun remembered something from his childhood. His father had once taught him basic judo moves. As the man grabbed him, Minjun twisted his body and shifted his weight, making the man lose his balance. The crowd erupted in cheers. Even Baba Chukudi nodded approvingly. Ada's jaw dropped. "Wait, you actually know what you're doing." Minjun grinned, feeling a sudden surge of confidence. A little. Of course, his luck ran out quickly. His opponent regained control and, with a powerful move, flipped Minjun onto the ground. Dust flew everywhere as the crowd roared in excitement. Lying on his back, Minjun groaned. "Yep, I'm dead." The opponent helped him up, clapping him on the back with a wide grin. "You have the spirit of a fighter." Minjun wobbled on his feet, but he smiled. He may have lost, but he had earned respect. Ada ran up to him, still laughing. "Minjun, you never stop surprising me." He chuckled, rubbing his sore arms. "Yeah, me neither." And just like that, the village no longer saw him as an outsider. He was becoming one of them. That evening, as the festival continued with music and dancing, Minjun sat outside Mama Ebel's house, stretching his sore muscles. His body ached from the wrestling match, but his heart was light. He had never felt more included, more at home. Ada sat beside him, plucking at the threads on her dress. "So, city boy, what do you think of our festival?" Minjun smiled. "It's amazing. The energy, the food, the people. It's nothing like I've ever experienced before." Ada nudged him playfully. "Admit it, you're starting to like it here." He chuckled. "Maybe a little." Mama Ebel appeared from the kitchen, holding a steaming bowl. "Minjun, my son, I have something special for you." He sat up. "For me." She placed the bowl in front of him, and the familiar scent made his eyes widen. "Korean food?" he asked in disbelief. Ada grinned. "Mama asked me to describe what you eat back home." She made her own version. Minjun picked up the chopsticks placed beside the bowl. Inside was a dish that resembled bibimbap, but with an African twist flavored rice topped with vegetables, spicy sauce, and grilled meat. It smelled rich, comforting, and somehow it reminded him of home. He took a bite. The flavors exploded in his mouth, a perfect balance of spice and warmth. He swallowed, his throat tightening with unexpected emotion. Mama Ebel watched him carefully. "Do you like it?" Minjun nodded slowly. "It tastes like home." Ada smiled softly. "We may be different, Minjun, but food connects everyone." He looked at her, then at Mama Ebel, and something clicked inside him. He had come here expecting to be an outsider, to struggle with the differences. But in this moment, surrounded by warmth and laughter, he realized he wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was family. The morning after the festival, Minjun woke up feeling lighter than he had in weeks. The village, which once felt unfamiliar and overwhelming, now carried a comforting rhythm. He stretched and stepped outside, greeted by the usual sounds of roosters, crowing, and women chatting as they prepared breakfast. As he walked toward Mama Ebel's house, Ada rushed toward him, waving an envelope in the air. "Minjun, the village chief got a letter for you. It's from Korea." Minchun's heart skipped a beat. It had been weeks since he'd spoken to his family, and seeing the letter made him suddenly aware of how much he missed them. Taking it from Ada's hands, he hesitated before opening it. "What is it?" Ada asked, peering over his shoulder. Minchun's eyes scanned the neatly written Hangul. his mother's handwriting unmistakable. "My dear son, we miss you terribly. The house feels empty without your noise and complaints about my cooking. Your father keeps checking the calendar, counting the days until you return. How is Africa? Have you learned anything new? Are the people treating you well?" Minjun swallowed, his chest tightening. He could almost hear his mother's voice in the words. "Your brother says you'll come back even skinnier than before, but I hope you're eating well. Remember to take care of yourself. We love you. Right back soon." Minjun sighed and folded the letter. Ada studied his expression. "Do you miss home?" He nodded. "Yeah, but it's weird. I thought I'd be counting the days to go back. But now," he paused, looking around at the village. "Now I feel like I belong here too." Ada smiled knowingly. "You can have more than one home, Minjun." Her words settled deep within him. Maybe home wasn't just a place, it was the people, the moments, the connections. Still holding the letter, he made a decision. "I need to write back. I need to tell them everything." Ada grinned. "Good. And tell them that I, Ada the Great, am making sure you don't starve." Minjun laughed, feeling a warmth inside him that had nothing to do with the sun. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was a part of something bigger. Later that evening, Minjun sat outside under the vast African sky, a lantern casting a soft glow over the wooden table where he was writing. The cool breeze carried distant laughter from the village square, where children played and elders shared stories. Ada sat nearby, absently chewing on a sugarcane stick. "How's the letter going?" Minjun sighed, tapping the end of his pen against the paper. "It's harder than I thought. I don't know how to explain everything." Ada chuckled. "Just tell them the truth. Tell them how you went from a lost city boy to a village champion. Well, almost." Minjun rolled his eyes but smiled. "I think my mom would be shocked to hear that. I danced in a festival and wrestled a giant." Ada laughed. "I would pay to see her reaction." He looked down at his unfinished letter. The ink smudged slightly where he had hesitated. His family had expected him to come here, suffer through culture shock, and return home unchanged. But now, the thought of leaving made his chest feel heavy. "I feel like I'm caught between two worlds," he admitted. "I miss home, but I love it here too." Ada was quiet for a moment. Then, in a rare soft tone, she said, "Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe you were meant to see life from both sides." Minjun thought about that. The boy who had arrived here weeks ago would have dismissed the idea, too eager to return to modern comforts. But now he wasn't so sure. He picked up his pen again and wrote, "Dear Mother, Africa is not what I expected. It is more." As he continued writing, the weight in his chest lifted. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was a bridge between two worlds. The next morning, Ada and Minjun took a stroll through the village, passing by the marketplace where women sold woven baskets, fresh produce, and colorful beads. The scent of roasted plantains filled the air, mixing with the laughter of traders haggling over prices. Minjun admired the simplicity of it all, the warmth, the energy, the way everyone seemed to belong. It was so different from Seoul's towering buildings and fast-paced life. "You know," Ada said, breaking his thoughts, "I was thinking about something last night." Minjun raised a brow. "That's dangerous." She nudged him playfully. "Shut up. I was just wondering. Back in Korea, would someone like me be considered beautiful?" The question caught Minjun off guard. He turned to look at Ada properly. Her round face, rich dark skin, and full figure carried a confidence that was impossible to ignore. She was strong, radiant, and unapologetically herself. But he knew what she meant. In Korea, beauty was often associated with being petite, fair-skinned, and delicate. The opposite of Ada. He hesitated before answering. Honestly, the beauty standards are very different. In Korea, many people admire slim figures and pale skin. Ada smirked. "So, I'd be considered ugly." Minjun shook his head. "No, just different." He paused before adding, "But beauty isn't one thing. Here, I've seen how the men admire you. They love your confidence, your curves, and honestly, I think that's real beauty. Ada blinked, as if taken aback. You really think so? He nodded. I do. The world has different ideas of beauty, but confidence, strength, that shines no matter where you are. For the first time, Ada seemed unsure of what to say. She glanced away, her usual teasing smirk replaced with a thoughtful expression. Minjun smiled. Besides, I think Seoul would be too boring without someone like you. Ada burst into laughter, shoving him lightly. You just had to ruin the moment, didn't you? Minjun grinned. It's a gift. As they continued walking, Ada's smile lingered, but this time, it was softer, genuine. And Minjun realized that. In learning about her world, he was also learning to see beauty in a whole new way. The village had a way of throwing surprises at Minjun, but nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. As he and Ada strolled past the marketplace, a group of elderly women sitting under a mango tree suddenly burst into giggles. They whispered among themselves before one of them, a plump woman with a wide toothy grin, called out, "Ah, Ada, this your Korean visitor, he is a fine young man." Ada laughed. "Yes, Maman Kechi, he is." Minjun smiled politely, but before he could respond, another elderly woman spoke up. "Has he paid your bride price yet?" Minchun's eyes widened in horror. "What?" The women burst into laughter, their voices rich with amusement. One clapped her hands and said, "Hey, Ada, this one is a keeper. He survived the eating contest, danced in the festival, and even tried wrestling. He is proving himself as a true man. We can start the marriage negotiations now." Minjun choked on air. Marriage. Ada doubled over with laughter, clutching her stomach. "Oh, Minjun, you should see your face right now." Maman Kechi nodded seriously. "Yes, in our culture, when a man comes to a village and shows bravery, hard work, and respect, the elders start considering him as a suitable husband for one of the young women." She leaned in with a teasing smile. "And since you and Ada are always together, why not?" Minjun looked at Ada, who was wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "You planned this, didn't you?" Ada smirked. "No, but this is so much fun to watch." Minjun turned back to the women, waving his hands frantically. This is a misunderstanding. Ada and I are just friends." Maman Kechi winked. "That's how it starts." The women erupted into laughter again, and Minjun buried his face in his hands. He had survived wrestling and an eating contest, but it seemed escaping a marriage proposal was a whole different challenge. As they walked away, Ada grinned at him. "Well, husband-to-be, how does it feel to be in high demand?" Minjun groaned. "I am never going near that mango tree again." Ada laughed. "Oh, Minjun, you're becoming one of us whether you like it or not." And despite himself, Minjun couldn't help but smile. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. After escaping the unexpected marriage proposal, Minjun thought the teasing would end. He was wrong. As he and Ada walked toward Mama Ebel's house, villagers greeted him with knowing smiles. Some of the older men clapped him on the back, while younger women giggled as he passed. Even the little children ran up to him, chanting, "Ada's husband, Ada's husband." Minjun groaned. "Why is this spreading so fast?" Ada smirked. News travels faster than the wind in this village. As they entered Mama Ebel's courtyard, they found Baba Chu Kwudi, the village elder, sitting under the shade of a tree. He motioned for them to come closer. "Minjun," he said, his deep voice carrying authority, "you have been in our village for some time now, and we have watched you. You have danced with us, eaten with us, and even wrestled with our warriors." Minjun sat up straighter, unsure where this was going. Yes, sir." Baba Chu Kwudi nodded. "It is time you receive a true village name." Ada's eyes lit up with excitement. "Oh, this is a big deal, Minjun." Minjun blinked. "A village name? For me?" Baba Chu Kwudi smiled. "Yes. From today, you shall be called Obina." A hush fell over the courtyard. Even Mama Ebel, who had been stirring a pot of soup, paused and nodded approvingly. Minjun swallowed. What does it mean? Mama Ebel smiled warmly. Obina means father's heart, or one who is close to the father's heart. It is a name of love and acceptance. Minchun's throat tightened. He thought of his own father back in Korea, the man who had been skeptical about his trip, worried about him being alone in a foreign land. And yet, here he was being given a name that signified belonging. Baba Chu Kwudi placed a hand on Minchun's shoulder. You may have been born in another land, but today you are one of us. Ada nudged him gently. Well, Obina, what do you think? Minjun took a deep breath, looking around at the faces that had once been strangers but now felt like family. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. I think, he said, voice thick with emotion, that I love it. And just like that, Minjun wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was home. The next morning, Minjun sat outside Mama Ebel's house, staring at the small phone in his hands. The village chief had allowed him to use his phone to check messages, and among them was a missed call from his mother. Ada plopped down beside him, chewing on a roasted corn cob. You look like you just saw a ghost. Minjun sighed. It's my mom, she called. Ada raised an eyebrow. And that's a bad thing. No, Minjun admitted. It's just, I don't know how to explain everything. How do I tell her that I now have a village name? That I danced in a festival, wrestled, and almost got fake married? He groaned. She's going to think I've lost my mind. Ada chuckled. Well, only one way to find out. She reached over and pressed the call button before Minjun could stop her. He panicked. Ada, what if? But it was too late. The line connected, and his mother's voice, filled with warmth and urgency, came through. Minjun, Egu, why haven't you called? Are you okay? Did something happen? Minjun took a deep breath. I'm okay, Yama. I was just adjusting to life here. His mother sighed in relief. I was so worried. Your father keeps asking about you. Your brother says you must be starving by now. Minjun laughed. Trust me, Yama, I'm eating a lot. The food here is amazing. Ada smirked, listening in. Tell her I make sure of that. Minjun rolled his eyes. Yama, this is Ada. She's been taking care of me. His mother paused. Ada leaned closer to the phone. Yes, Mama Minjun, your son is in good hands. He's even becoming a proper African man. Minjun groaned. Not you too. His mother sounded amused. I see. And what is this about a village name? Minchun's breath caught. You know about that. I got an email from the professor who arranged your trip. He mentioned something about you being called Obina. Minjun swallowed. Yes, it means father's heart. There was silence on the other end, then a soft chuckle. That is a beautiful name. My son. Something in his chest warmed. He had been afraid that his family wouldn't understand. But in his mother's voice, there was no disapproval, only love. When are you coming home? She asked gently. Minjun hesitated. I don't know, Yama. He looked around at the village, the place that had once felt foreign, but now felt like another home. I'm not ready to leave just yet. His mother was silent for a moment. Then she said, then stay, learn, grow, but don't forget no matter where you are, you will always have a home with us. Minjun felt his throat tighten. I know, Yama. Thank you. As the call ended, Ada watched him closely. Well, he exhaled, a smile forming. She understands. Ada grinned. Of course she does. Mothers always know. And for the first time, Minjun felt truly at peace, caught between two worlds, yet fully belonging to both. Days passed, and Minjun felt something shift inside him. His connection to the village deepened, and with it, his understanding of himself. He no longer felt like an outsider, but rather someone who had woven himself into the fabric of this place. One evening, as the sun cast golden hues over the village, Ada and Minjun sat by the riverbank. The water shimmered, reflecting the beauty of the land he had grown to love. Ada tossed a pebble into the water. You've changed, Min-jun. He raised an eyebrow. Oh, how so? She smirked. Well, for one, you no longer jump at the sight of a goat. Min-jun laughed. That was one time. Ada grinned. Seriously, though, when you first came, you were stiff, awkward, and honestly, a little snobby. He gasped in mock offense. Snobby? Yes, she teased. But now you're different. You walk like one of us. You speak with ease. And most of all, you listen. Min-jun stared at the water, her words settling deep. She was right. Back in Seoul, he had always been rushing to succeed, rushing to impress, rushing to prove himself. But here, life had slowed down, and in that stillness, he had discovered something valuable. I think, he said slowly, that I was always looking for something. I just didn't know what. Ada turned to him, curiosity in her eyes, and now, Min-jun took a deep breath, letting the evening air fill his lungs. Now, I think I've found it. She smiled. And what is it? He looked around, the distant laughter of villagers, the scent of roasted yams, the rhythmic sounds of nature blending into the heartbeat of the land. Peace, he said simply. Ada nodded, as if she understood. That's the real treasure of this place. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the river flow. For the first time in a long time, Min-jun wasn't worried about the future. For now, this moment was enough. The morning of Min-shun's departure arrived faster than he had expected. The village was unusually quiet as he walked through it one last time, taking in the familiar sights, the bustling marketplace, the children running barefoot with wide smiles, the elders sitting under the baobab tree, whispering stories of old. It all felt like a dream he didn't want to wake up from. At Mama Ebel's house, a small farewell gathering had been arranged. The scent of fresh jollof rice and grilled meat filled the air as villagers came to bid him goodbye. Baba Chukwudi stepped forward, holding out a small wooden carving, a tiny replica of a baobab tree. This is for you, O Binna. May you carry the spirit of this place with you always. Min-jun accepted it with both hands, bowing respectfully. Thank you, Baba. Ada stood a few steps away, arms crossed, her usual teasing smirk absent. So, she said, voice unusually soft. You're really leaving? Min-jun sighed. I have too. My family is waiting for me. Ada nodded, kicking at the dirt. Yeah, makes sense. A heavy silence hung between them. He had never imagined how hard it would be to say goodbye. Finally, Ada reached into her pocket and pulled out a beaded bracelet, slipping it onto his wrist. So you don't forget us? Min-jun smiled, flexing his fingers. As if I ever could. Ada smirked. Good, because if you do, I'll personally fly to Korea and drag you back. He laughed, but there was an undeniable lump in his throat. I'll be back someday, Ada. I promise. She nodded, eyes glistening. You better. As he climbed into the waiting car, he looked back one last time. The village, the people, Ada, they had given him something he never knew he needed. And as the car pulled away, Min-jun knew he wasn't just leaving a place. He was leaving home. Wow, this story proves that sometimes the most unexpected experiences are the ones that change us the most. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a cultural experience that completely changed your perspective? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another incredible tale. More exciting stories are coming your way, so stay tuned. Love you all.